Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to see so many of you still here after a fairly tiring 3 days for many and 5 days for others. So thank you very much for being here. We're going to do this closing presentation in two parts. I'm going to start with a rather meandering journey through the last 5 days, and then my colleague Gamil is going to follow up with some more concise, synthetic key messages for all of you to take home at the end of this conference. So as we mentioned at the beginning, this has been a journey of about 10 years to get here. The first NEC conference was in 2009 in Morocco. And I think we have some colleagues from Morocco here. Les collègues de l'UNDH, are you still with us? Morocco, are you here? Voila. Then we moved on to South Africa. Can we hear from South Africa? Oh, there's more of you than that. You're being shy. Then we moved to Brazil. Do we have anybody from Brazil who's still with us? Oh, there we go. At least one representative. Then we moved to Thailand in 2015, the year of the SDGs. Thailand. I know there's somebody. Then we moved to Turkey in 2017. Turkey! And now we're here in Egypt. Let's hear for Egypt. So as you know, we started off with 2 days of training workshops before the conference started. We had 2 days, 30 trainers, 21 workshops, which somebody calculated added up to 168 hours of training for 280 participants. For the Independent Evaluation Office, this is a record. Then we moved on to the conference, where, as you know, we've spent 3 days together. We've been through 5 plenaries, if we include this one, 21 parallel sessions, and we're still waiting for the final count, but we've been told we're well over 500 participants from well over 100 countries. So where did we start 3 days ago? We started with a message from the UN Deputy Secretary General, who told us from the outset that evaluation is a powerful tool that improves public accountability and contributes to positive development change. We heard a number of key messages in our plenary sessions, including one from your Minister for Planning, who said that the monitoring and evaluation process is crucial for the development process, and technology is important in improving the monitoring and evaluation process. We then heard from our colleague Pedro, who talked about how leaving no one behind manifests itself in many ways, and from distinguished panelists who reminded us that evaluators need to constantly ask themselves, what are we bringing to the table? What are we doing? Are we doing the right thing? And are we doing it right? We also heard about evidence in this first session. Indran told us that evaluation generates evidence, strong accountability and learning that will help us in achieving the SDGs. These questions of evidence came up throughout the conference with one important remark. Sometimes we say evidence speaks for itself, but actually, when fragmented, it does not. We need to translate evidence into knowledge. And that's what we as evaluators do. We also discussed the new evaluation criteria with a reminder that the reason we use criteria is it provides a foundation for better evaluation. We also talked about the fact that better evaluation requires not only asking the right questions, but asking who is asking the questions and how those questions are being answered. It was also pointed out to us that maybe we need to go beyond the criterion of relevance to context, approaches, and needs to lead to culturally sensitive evaluation. These questions of values and who we're doing this for came up again and again in another session this afternoon, where they stated that evaluation is about value, to assess what is working, for whom, how, and why. This morning, we heard that there are 4 key areas that are critical for strengthening an evaluation function: evaluation policy, evaluation quality, evaluation coverage, and in the end, communication. We then moved on to the country experiences and learning from what's really happening when we talk about evaluation and the SDGs. Successful efforts to track progress on the SDGs require a whole-of-government approach with high-level commitment. And in fact, no country has yet introduced a credible plan of how the 2030 Agenda really will be achieved. And we all need credible roadmaps of how to achieve the SDGs, which is also why we need evaluation. In another session, we were reminded that national evaluation capacities means much more than individual capacities. It also means institutional capacities. To ensure this institutional capacity, we need national evaluation policies to define the rationale, the purpose, principles, definitions and roles and responsibilities, and resources for evaluation. Others pointed out that what can't be measured can't be assessed, and what can't be assessed can't be improved. We also talked about the fact that strengthening an M&E system is not a single event. It's a process. We heard this word over and over again, process, that requires commitment from all stakeholders. And use of a gradual approach is very important to establish a sustainable system. Oops. Once again, when it comes to process, monitoring and evaluation is not just a technical process, but also a political one, and therefore has implications for integrating equity into national evaluations. Addressing participation, voice, and power are central to institutionalizing equity. However, again, engaging citizens and ensuring their voice is an iterative process, and it takes time and effort. There were other challenges to strengthening evidence-based cultures that were discussed. Countries in Asia Pacific shared that they face common challenges in strengthening and evaluation systems to meet the demand of the SDGs, but they also shared that diagnostics have identified needs and countries are designing realistic approaches to move forward, especially with respect to disaggregated data, feedback loops, and the culture of evaluation. Our colleagues, our Francophone colleagues, talked this afternoon about the fact that prioritization of the SDGs at country level is necessary to determine what should be evaluated at country level. They pointed out that countries need to establish and continually reinforce their national evaluation and data collection systems to make evidence available to inform national policies as a means to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. In another session this afternoon, they pointed out the importance of the approach followed in national evaluations. For example, setting up an evaluation steering committee, putting in place measures for ownership, ensuring stakeholder engagement in different stages of the evaluation, and here we have this word again, communicating evaluation findings. We also talked about other challenges and tools and methods that we can use as evaluators. As we heard in the very first session, and we all know from opening the newspapers every day, one of the world's greatest collective challenges is coping with a changing climate, and evaluation has an important role to play here as well. Geospatial data and methods offer powerful tools for evaluation, tools which can help us open up theories of change to show unanticipated consequences and impacts. In other sessions, we also looked at other aspects of new technologies, that can provide real-time, ground-truthed answers to key programmatic design and implementation questions. The younger evaluators told us older folks that the youth are better connected by technology and networking, and as the world is much more connected through them, this can benefit people who haven't been reached and haven't been heard. And they said young people should be involved in all evaluations, not just evaluation of youth programs. Another tool is the online National Evaluation Diagnostic and Strategizing tool, which facilitates institutional self-assessment of evaluation capacities and enables a systematic approach to determine pathways and parameters for strengthening national evaluation. We also talked a lot about partnerships. Engagement with the private sector is crucial, even central to achievement of the SDGs. And in this case, risk, reticence, and reluctance makes evaluation essential to oversee and manage this partnership with the private sector and ensure proper use and intended impact from the use of public funds in pursuit of the SDGs. When talking about partnerships, colleagues pointed out that user-friendly evaluations are more likely to be used by our partners and our stakeholders. And when working with partners, it's really best if we focus on what binds us and not on what divides us. Then we move into many of the questions that were discussed throughout this conference about leaving no one behind, inclusion, and non-discrimination. And it was agreed that the evaluation community still needs to collectively advocate for more gender-responsive evaluation. Thorough and clear data collection designed with and targeted at vulnerable groups can clearly inform decision makers of intended and unintended consequences of policy implementation and provide evidence for ways forward and policy expansion. And key to this is including vulnerable groups, not just in the data collection, but throughout the entire development process. Another message from this afternoon: don't leave local governments behind when we're talking about evaluation, because that's actually where SDG implementation happens. Some other things we heard over these few days about evaluation without leaving anyone behind. We need to constantly ask the question, why are we doing this evaluation? For whom are we doing this evaluation? We also heard that community engagement in evaluation is important for credibility and bringing out the voices of the people. And we were reminded that data and data collection may well be challenges, but people are there, ready to tell us their stories, and we should be ready to listen. My favorite session is the one that came up with Hurghada principles for evaluation that leaves no one behind. These principles include the need to map evaluation stakeholders thoroughly and in detail at the outset of the evaluation, to sustain stakeholder engagements throughout the evaluation processes, use diverse and appropriate evaluation methods, always consider and be sensitive to the context, disseminate evaluation findings, and be particularly vigilant about leaving no one behind in conflict-affected and fragile contexts and in humanitarian crises. My next favorite thing was watching all of you talk together to debate these questions over many, many tables across many, many sessions. That's what the NEC conferences are about, is bringing people together for these exchanges, for opportunities from people from different continents to have some time together to talk about how we can make evaluation better, how we can make sure we're not leaving anyone behind, and achieve the SDGs. Thank you.